Welcome to our online gathering of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Little Rock. I'm Laurie Smith-Prudhomme, a member of our congregation. Whoever you are and wherever you may be right now, we are glad you are joining us. This is our service for Sunday, August 29th, 2021. And whether you're joining us on this day or at some other time, whether you're joining us from your home or from someplace across the country, we are so glad to welcome you to our worshiping community. This morning, we welcome to our virtual pulpit one of our own members, Joanne Crean. Joanne joined our church in 2008 after she retired from teaching. She says she's long admired the philosophies and principles of Unitarian Universalism since she learned about them from a couple she met hiking in Colorado a number of years ago. She says the clincher was learning that many of our founding fathers and mothers were Unitarians. Welcome, Joanne. If you would like to learn more about our church, or if you've been joining us for some time and feel like our church could be your spiritual home, we would love to hear from you. You can send an email to uuclr@uuclr.org. Our worship service will now begin.
The opening words for today's service are from William James, the well-known 19th century philosopher, historian, and psychologist. He said, "The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another."
"'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning, we come round right."
We light this chalice with these words: open your eyes to see what is beautiful. Open your mind to learn what is true. Open your heart to love one another. Please join me in saying the affirmation of covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place.
Far below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat, and the earth is my blue boat home.
The first reading for today's message is actually from Facebook. I have read it on the thread of several friends, and I cannot find the original source, so whoever she may be, we thank her for her inspiration. Sometimes I just want it to stop. Talk of COVID, protest, looting, brutality, I lose my way. Become convinced that this new normal is real life. But then I meet an 87-year-old who talks of living through polio, diphtheria, Vietnam, protest, and yet is still enchanted with life. He seemed surprised when I said 2020 must be especially challenging for him. No, he said, slowly looking me straight in the eyes. I learned a long time ago to not see the world through the printed headlines. I see the world through the people that surround me. I see the world with the realization that we love big. Therefore, I choose my own headlines. Husband loves wife today. Family drops everything to come to grandma's bedside. He patted my hand. Old man makes new friend. His words collide with my worries, freeing them from the tether I had been holding tight. They float away. I'm left with a renewed spirit. My headline now reads, Woman overwhelmed by the spirit of kindness and the reminder that our capacity to love is never ending.
which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
The second reading for today is by Brené Brown. For years, I subscribed to the notion of an attitude of gratitude. I've since learned that an attitude is an orientation or way of thinking, and that having an attitude doesn't always translate to a behavior. For example, it would be reasonable to say that I have a yoga attitude. The ideas and beliefs that guide my life are very in line with the ideas and beliefs that I associate with yoga. I value mindfulness, breathing, and the body-mind-spirit connection. I even have yoga outfits. But let me assure you, my yoga attitude and outfits don't mean jack if you put me on a yoga mat and ask me to stand on my head or strike a pose. Why don't they mean jack? Because I don't practice yoga. I don't put my attitude into action enough to call it a practice. So where it really matters on the mat, my yoga attitude doesn't count for much. So what does a gratitude practice look like? When the folks I interviewed talked about gratitude, there were a whole bunch of verbs involved. I am Joanne Crean, and I have been a member of this church since 2008. I want to begin with a disclaimer that I'm not a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or any kind of trained mental health expert. So I'm not here to say that my words will be valuable to everyone who listens. We each have our own ways of coping with anxiety, stress, or grief. What I am about to talk about is my own journey during the past 18 months of stressful times for us all. A few years ago, Margaret McClellan said to me that each person has 3 sermons in them. I gave a message at that time in front of the church called It's the Trip, which was basically about realizing that since our final destination is unknown, we should focus on each day of our trip and try to make it as meaningful and joyful as possible. I shared anecdotes and quotes and insights to that end. Well, during the past year, I had an experience that has inspired my second sermon, and who knows if I will ever have a third. We're living in an unprecedented time. I realize that historically, mankind has always had to endure plagues, wars, famines, and economic depressions. However, this last 18 months has been a time we'll never forget. We have been wearing masks and still are. We've had to watch our economy suffer. We are worried about our children and grandchildren who are still not able to be vaccinated, and some who are attending schools that don't have mask mandates. Our hospitals are overflowing with people who cannot breathe. Many of us know someone who has died or whose health has been affected by this. Many of us know people whose jobs, businesses, and homes have been lost because of this. Also, we've had to isolate ourselves from activities that made our life meaningful and from people who we care about. Besides all this, the political atmosphere during the last election cycle has been distressing. If you follow political news or were an American history teacher like me and are aware of the democratic institutions that are fundamental to this country, you have been saddened and distressed by events such as the Capitol insurrection, the continuing stream of disinformation that is still in our country, or the divisiveness that's in our national and state politics. I say this to remind us that, yes, there is an emotional strain on our mental health during this last 18 months. This message is called Cultivating Contentment. I'm defining contentment as the inner sense of fulfillment that is relatively independent from circumstances that surround us. It's the ability to accept things that we cannot control and appreciate the things for which we can. A few months ago, I found myself sitting on the couch, wallowing, and not able to get up. There were plenty of things going on to stress about. And while I realized that a little bit of angst is good for the poet in us or the songwriter out there, I had too much time on my hands and had let myself become depressed to the point of not functioning well. That moment on the couch was my aha moment. I recognized that I needed to take better care of my mental health. I realized that my perspectives were askew, and I decided to do something about it. And what I'm sharing is what I did and am still doing. And I'm doing it because I think there may be other people out there that could benefit from my experience. I have come to realize that our mental health is as important to us as our physical health. And sometimes taking care of it has to be a developed discipline, like brushing our teeth, like my friend Pat said, or eating right, or exercising, or any of the things that we would do for our physical health. There's a quote that I read many years ago, and which has become a favorite of mine, that says, "Be careful of your thoughts, for they become your words. Be careful of your words, for they become your actions. Be careful of your actions, for they become your habits. Be careful of your habits, for they become your character. Be careful of your character, for it becomes your destiny." So it all begins with our thoughts. Our thoughts form our destiny. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." He also said, "Our life is what our thoughts make it." This past year, as I coped with these circumstances, I remembered many spiritual and religious practices that are tools for focusing and redirecting our thoughts. I heard a speaker one time in New York City at a women's conference who was Jewish, and she told the story of her grandmother when she was a child who would thank God every time she used the bathroom. And to this child, she was aghast and rolled her eyes that her grandmother would do such a thing. But as she got older, she realized her grandmother was thanking God that her body was functioning. Some religions, like Muslims, stop 5 times a day. No matter what they're doing or where they are, they stop. And for 5 times a day, they redirect their thinking to their priorities. I was in Sedona, Arizona one time with a good friend and good friends, and we stopped and visited a spiritual practice called Course in Miracles. And the students were in class, but each hour a small bell would ring and everyone would stop what they were doing and concentrate again on what they wanted their minds to think about, calm down, and redirect their thinking. Eastern religions have the practice of meditation, which also redirects your thinking to a calm state. As my friend Elaine said, it stops the monkey mind in us and gives us the opportunity to change the direction of our thinking. When I was a child, I was a Southern Baptist, and I was taught to pray at least every night. I think some Southern Baptists might have prayed more often, but I did every night when I was a child. And the prayer had 3 parts to it. The first part was gratitude, reminding ourselves of the things to be thankful for. The second part was supplication, thinking of the needs of others and asking for help for these people. And the third was repentance, reflecting on the things that we could do better. Well, I'm not a Baptist anymore, but I certainly can see the benefit of stopping my thoughts to recognize what I have to be thankful for. We all have probably heard a young child at the dinner table asked to say the blessing and start making a very long list of things they were thankful for, like birds and the cat and the dog and everybody at the table and everybody not at the table. and the food and the silverware. It was sweet for them to think of so many things that they were thankful for when they were young. We can also benefit from getting our minds off ourselves and thinking of the needs of others. I may not believe that a higher power will intervene in their lives because I ask, but I can do much if I will just have the thought of being helpful. If someone's grieving, I can call them, take them food, offer to take them somewhere. If it's world hunger that I'm concerned about, there are many organizations which I can contribute to monetarily who would appreciate my help, locally and internationally. And if I'm concerned about the suffering of animals, of course I can give monetarily to several groups who are noted for making a difference in this. And I can be like my friend Marlene and actually do on the ground finding homes for these animals. Much joy is found in reaching out to others and being part of community. And though I don't believe in sin, I can certainly benefit from reflecting on my thoughts and actions and on the direction which they're taking me. What all these spiritual practices have in common is the belief that we can have some control over the direction of our thoughts through practice and discipline. During the past year, I joined Noom for a few months. In case you don't have Facebook or have not seen Noom's million commercials, it is basically a diet plan that has a psychological approach to our relationship to food. Now, in the end, it is always going to be calories in, calories out, and establishing a healthy lifestyle. But I had a couple of problem areas which Noom helped me with. To get from my house to anywhere in the universe, I have to drive by a dozen restaurants. I have my choice of hamburgers, pizza, catfish, homemade bagels, good Mexican food, good Chinese food. The list goes on. And sometimes when I was hungry on my way home from somewhere and I didn't want to cook, I would stop and get food to take home. But now that I look at it in a new direction, I don't do it, because for me to stop and get a 1,600 calorie hamburger and fries, I have 3 options. 1, I can eat grass for the next 24 hours because that actually is more calories than I need. 2, I can get up and run a mile in the morning to try to make up for it. Or 3, I can gain weight. And I don't want to do any of those 3 things, so I'm very content to drive right by those places. So I haven't changed my circumstances, I've just changed my attitude toward those circumstances. That's what cultivating contentment is. There are situations in all of our lives over which we have no control, but we can certainly control and redirect our thinking. So what are some ways that can help us worry less and cultivate good mental health during times of stress? Well, I've spent several hours Googling during this last few weeks getting ready for this, and I have found some reliable sources. I did try to go to reliable sources, and they all had several things in common with ideas. And so what I'm going to do is give you the top 4 ideas from all of these sources that I found. The first one is recognizing what is happening with your thoughts. When we find ourselves ruminating, that's a really good word, ruminating, about something that is troubling, we can stop and turn our thoughts in another direction. Quit listening to music that triggers sadness. Don't watch a movie that brings back memories of a better time or whatever. Give up endless hours of the news if it saddens you, and turn your thoughts in another direction. Again, William James said in the opening words, "The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another." We can watch Kung Fu Panda, which is a wonderful animated movie that won Academy Awards, excellent actors, producer, dialogue, or something else that's witty and funny and going to leave us with a good feeling. We can read a good book. Everyone should have a book by their chair side or couch side or wherever you're sitting. We can turn on some good classical music. There's not any sad lyrics there. We can turn off the news and watch a little bit of mind candy, like HGTV, where someone gets a cute house every 30 minutes. You can get up and take a walk. We can make a list of things that we're looking forward to. We can start a new hobby. The point is, we have to learn to stop and redirect our thinking. Here's another quote. Here's a good quote by Viktor Frankl, which states, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In that response lies our growth and our freedom." This first step may be difficult at the beginning. Old habits die hard. If you need to talk to a therapist, I did, to start this first step, please consider it. But learning to redirect your thoughts is the first step to finding peace of mind. The second component of good mental health in times of stress involves 3 physical elements. Study after study showed that eating a nutritious diet, forming the habit of some kind of exercise, and getting sufficient sleep were all important to our mental health. I know it's sometimes hard to find time to exercise or even a place to exercise, but once you make that a priority, you will enjoy that time of the day. I walk every morning. I try to walk every morning. It gets me outside. It doesn't require any equipment except a good pair of shoes. I can talk to friends. I can eat a little bit more food. And I used to feel self-conscious about walking alone, but I have found a good trail near my home around a lake that I feel safe being at, and now I enjoy that time also. So there is an activity out there that you can enjoy. Please try to find it and get yourself outdoors if you can. A third suggestion for maintaining a healthy state of mind in time of stress is to interact with others. It may be hard to share with friends or family that you're depressed or anxious. You may not want your children or your friends to worry about you, but it's important not to keep these feelings to yourself. Don't believe everything you think comes to mind. Thoughts are not facts comes to mind. And when a person is overthinking a situation or problem, talking it over with yourself is not a good idea. Yourself is usually going to agree with yourself, and then both of yourselves are going to be feeling worse. I read that a person has 50,000 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and up to 80% of those may have a negative connotation of some sort. Happy people actually learn to question their negative thoughts and redirect their thinking. In times like this, it's easy to dwell on the negative. It's also easy to expect the worst to happen, but both of these are distorted thinking and need to be recognized for that. Having a network of friends to whom you can be honest and being in a community of like minds is very valuable in these times. A fourth suggestion that I alluded to earlier in my reading about the yoga practice is to have a practice of gratitude. A quote attributed to Tecumseh, the famous Shawnee chief, said, "When you arise in the morning, give thanks for the morning light, for your life and strength. Give thanks for your food and the joy of living. If you see no reason to give thanks, the fault lies within yourself." We all have things to be thankful for. Practicing gratitude doesn't mean bearing unwanted feelings or looking for the silver lining in a bad situation. Practicing gratitude means acknowledging what is still good alongside the mess. That's a quote by Heidi Barr. It may start with just being grateful that we can digest food like the Jewish grandmother. So I know we still have months ahead of us with some of the same conditions that we have had to face for the past 18 months. Though more people are vaccinated each day, our younger children and grandchildren have not yet had that opportunity. Our country still faces political divisions and disinformation. Our economy is still in recovery. and our church and other vital organizations that enrich our lives and give us words of encouragement are still not able to fully open to in-person meetings. If you find yourself stressed or anxious with all that is going on, I do hope you will try to take care of your mental health and that some of these thoughts that I have shared with you may be helpful. Please reach out to those around you. Remember that we are a family. I'm going to end with a few quotes that I have found along the way while preparing for this. And I just wanted to say to you that I hope you have a good week and a good month ahead, and I look forward to us all meeting in person. Here's a quote from Walt Whitman. I have learned that to be with those I like is enough. Here's a quote from Mark Twain. Good friends, good books, and a sleepy conscience. This is the ideal life. And a quote from Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. For after all, the best thing one can do when it is raining is let it rain. And a quote from Winston Churchill. When I look on all these worries, I remember the story of the old man who said on his deathbed that he had had a lot of trouble in his life, most of which never happened. And finally, a quote from Charles Schulz. Learn from yesterday, live for tomorrow, live for today, look for tomorrow, and rest this afternoon. Thank you.
As is our custom when we close our worship, we speak words of hope for one another and for our world. Wherever you may be right now, I invite you to say with us our words of blessing. Go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings.